friends, in the series which we are doing on the making of contemporary India from 1950 to 1990s. Today we will talk about the linguistic reorganization of the states, part 2. In the earlier discussion on the linguistic reorganization of the states, we talked about that how the idea of language is an important component of culture, and how people, those who Congress party, when it was there in the national movement, it reorganized its structure of the party association in the framework of on the linguistic lines, and it was in the favor of linguistic reorganization. And once Congress came to power, the leaders, they felt that the national unity, the task of national unity was more important, and the redrawing of the internal boundaries could be done at a later time, and that is the kind of idea which they had in their mind. When you talk about the linguistic reorganization, then some of the readings which you can refer to is Bipin Chandra's India Since Independence, Ramchandra Guha's India After Gandhi, Rajni Kothari's Politics in India, W.H. Morris Jones' The Government and Politics of India. So these are some of the readings which you can refer when you are talking about the linguistic reorganization of the states. And as I was telling you that how the Congress party at that point of time and tried to focus on the issues which were more concerned with the unity of the country, and they did not want to in a way initiate the internal redrawing of the boundaries, and how the security and the stability of India was an important concern for them, and they did not pay much attention to the in a way try to redraw the administrative map of India. And but at the same time, the Constituent Assembly was also very concerned with this issue of the linguistic provinces, and for that matter they appointed a Linguistic Provinces Commission in 1948, which was headed by Justice S.K. Dar, to inquire the desirability of the linguistic provinces. And Dar Commission advised against the step at the time, for it might threaten the national unity and also be administratively inconvenient. So we find that the people, those who are associated in terms of the constitution, or the makers of the constitution, they were quite aware that the linguistic reorganization as an important issue during that point of time, and that is how they constituted a commission by a judge, which was headed by a judge, and how the commission, it talked about that it was not the right time to in a way talk about the issue of linguistic provinces, and not to redraw the boundaries of India on the basis of the linguistic provinces, and it might in a way try to threaten the national unity, and it may also not be convenient from the administrative point of view. So that is how we find that because of the commission and the advice of the commission, the idea of linguistic reorganization was not in a way talked about it was not incorporated in the constitution that way. And we find that despite that, the people, those who wanted that the state should be reorganized, the provinces should be reorganized on the linguistic lines, so the political kind of an issue, it continued, and because of which we find that in December 1948, JVP, a committee consisting of Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Patel and Pattabhi Sitaramayya, who was the president of the Congress at that point of time, it was appointed to examine this particular issue. And the committee also advised against the creation of linguistic states for the time being, because it emphasized on the unity, national security and economic development as need of the times. So we find that Congress also appointed a committee in this particular framework in 1948, where the important political leaders, those who were associated with the Congress, they took part, and they also felt that the issue of linguistic states, it can be deferred for the time being. It may not be visited at this point of time, because there were more other pressing issues at that point of time, the issue of the unity of the country, national security and the economic development which had to undergo, because the way British, they had left India, we find that India was a very poor country from the agricultural as well as from the industrial point of view. Both these sectors they did not find any kind of a growth. rather there was a lot of retardation in both the sectors. And India being a country where diverse religions, languages, cultures and all the castes etc., they could be seen. So it was very important that the issue of unity should be promoted, and the idea of unity in diversity was also being promoted. And we also find that in the JVP report and afterwards Congress leadership, it laid down that wherever state was demanded on the linguistic lines, and state was very insistent, and the demand was also very, very overwhelming, and where other language groups involved were agreeable to it, a new state could be created. So this we find that the leadership was aware of this kind of an idea. JVP report was also in a way sympathetic to this idea, though they did not in a way suggest that this should take place, but at the same time they felt that where such kind of a demand was there, people were insistent, and other people, those who were the other language groups, they also agreed to such kind of a thing, then a new state could be created on those lines. So we find that this committee in a way accepted that a strong case for the formation of Andhra out of the Madras presidency, it existed, and if the Tamil Nadu was agreeable to it. But we also find that the committee did not concede the demand immediately, because the states which were involved, they could not come to any kind of an agreement between them, and we find that the leaders of Andhra, they were not willing to concede Madras, even though on the linguistic lines and also geographical grounds, as it belonged to Tamil Nadu. So we find that the conflict between the different states on these kinds of issues, because of which they were not able to decide that which path is to be undertaken. But finally what we see in 1952, 19th October, Patti Sri Ramalu, he undertook a fast unto death over demand for a separate Andhra. He expired after 58 days. So his death was followed by 3 days of rioting, demonstrations and violence all over Andhra. So it was an important development, and we find that the government also yielded during this point of time, and the government conceded the demand for a separate state of Andhra, which finally came into existence in October 1953, and Tamil Nadu was created as a Tamil speaking state. So we find that this issue of Patti Sri Ramalu and the creation of the Andhra state was the turning point in the framework of the linguistic reorganization of the states, and thereafter when a commission was appointed to look into this question, then the principle of the linguistic reorganization was accepted. And we also find that scholars, they have tried to see the kind of a background, that if Andhra state was in a way successful in that term, so S. Gopal has tried to convey this idea that it also encouraged the other linguistic groups to agitate for their own state or for rectification of their boundaries on a linguistic basis. So scholars, they have tried to see Andhra as an example, and how Andhra provided some kind of an encouragement to the other states, that how they can also press for the linguistic reorganization. And thereafter we also feel that this kind of a thing could become some sort of a reality as well. S. Gopal also felt that Prime Minister Nehru at that point of time, he felt that it would be undemocratic to smother this sentiment which he did not find objectionable. What concerned him were timing, agitation and violence with which linguistic provinces were being demanded, and harsh antagonism between various sections of Indian people which underlay these demands. So S. Gopal is of the view that Nehru as the Prime Minister, Congress Party at that point of time, and other members of the other ministers of the Congress Party, they were also very sensitive to this kind of a demand, but at the same time they were also very concerned with the kind of agitation and the violence which was being unleashed on the common masses, and this kind of an antagonism which could be seen in the Indian society. And thereafter we see that how a commission was appointed in August 1953. Justice Fazl Ali K.M. Panikkar and Hridainath Kunjuru, they were these three members of the commission to look into objectively and dispassionately the entire question of reorganization of the states of union. So we find that the State Reorganization Commission, or SRC, it was initiated in 1953, and these members they were in a way asked to look into the question of the reorganization of the states of the union in a very objective manner, in a dispassionate manner, in a rational manner, so that their recommendation could be taken into account, and whatever course the Indian state has to follow, whatever course the government has to follow, could be decided. So we also find that the State Reorganization Commission, it did its own exercise, and it also recommended certain measures during this time, and it was also in the favor of the linguistic principle. But we also at the same time we find that when commission was undertaking its work during 2 years, when it was initiated, there were a lot of conflict between different states and linguistic communities, with which the commission was not very comfortable, and we find that the commissioners, those who saw this kind of a violence, so they felt a lot of distress, because of which we find that this kind of an acrimonious controversy came between the various linguistic groups. So we also find that how a lot of deliberate efforts to whip up the political frenzy by an appeal to parochial and communal sentiments could also be seen, and there were threats of large scale migration, assertions such as that if a certain language group is not allowed to have an administrative unit of its own. So we find that the people, they were using all sorts of passion, all sorts of popular frenzy, they were trying to rely on the narrow ideas, and at the same time they were trying to convey that these kinds of things will continue if the state will not take into account the important aspects which are associated with the linguistic reorganization. So when we try to assess the State Reorganization Committee report, we find that due consideration should be given to the administrative and economic factors. This is what they reported, and it recognized for the most part the linguistic principle and recommended redrawing of state boundaries on that basis. So we find that the commission, which was headed by Fazl Ali, it realized the importance or of the linguistic reorganization, but at the same time it was distressed by the way it was the people, they were reacting to the journey which was being made by the commission. Commission also in a way opposed the splitting of Bombay and Punjab, and we find that despite the strong reaction to report in many parts of the country, SRC's recommendations were accepted, though with certain modifications, and they were quickly implemented. So we find that the recommendations which were made by SRC, they were accepted by the government, certain modifications they were being made by the government, and thereafter they were quickly implemented as well. We also find that the commission also made certain recommendations in the context of creating the zonal councils, and it also talked about that at least 1/3 of the officers of All India services to be recruited outside the state, and at least 1/3 of judges of High Court, Chief Justice shall necessarily be from outside the state. So these were some of the recommendations which were made by the commission which was appointed to look into the question. And finally we find that when the States Reorganization Act, when it was passed in the Parliament in November 1956, and how it provided for the 14 states and 6 centrally administered territories, and we also find that the strongest reaction against SRC's report and States Reorganization Act, it came from Maharashtra, where widespread rioting broke out and 80 people, they were killed in the Bombay city in police firings in January 1956. So we find that how the states, they were to be reorganized, it created a lot of passion among people, and in Maharashtra and Gujarat they had their own ideas with regard to the way their states, they were to be organized, and how some sort of protest movements, they were being initiated at different levels, and we find that because of the pressure, the government decided in June 1956 to divide Bombay state into two linguistic states of Maharashtra and Gujarat, with Bombay city forming a separate centrally administered state. So that was the kind of thing which was done by the government, but even that was not in a way liked by the people, and there was a lot of dissatisfaction regarding that, and the government reverted on its own decision which it had taken earlier. Then in July it reverted to the formation of bilingual Greater Bombay. Then this move was also opposed by the people both of Maharashtra as well as Gujarat, and broad based associations like Sanyukt Maharashtra Samiti and Mahagujarat Janata Parishad, they led movements in two parts of the state. So we find that various kinds of associations, they were also being framed on this particular question, and whatever decisions they were being taken by the governments at different points of time, they were not liked by the people, those who were living there. And many a times we find that the people, those who were associated with the government, with the Congress, they also joined these kinds of forces. And C.D. Deshmukh, who was the finance minister in the central cabinet, he resigned on this particular issue at that point of time. And on the other hand, the people, those who were Gujaratis, they felt that they will be minorities in the new state, and they too would not agree to give up Bombay city to Maharashtra, and because of which we find there was a lot of violence and arson, and now it is spread to Ahmedabad and other parts of Gujarat as well. So we find that this issue of the linguistic reorganization during the commission's work also, we find a lot of law and order problem, but at the same time when these kind of recommendations, when they were being adopted, then also we find that such kind of exercises, they continued. And we find that this kind of an agitation, it continued for nearly 5 years. Finally Indira Gandhi, when she took up this issue, and then the government agreed in May 1960 to bifurcate the state of Bombay into Maharashtra and Gujarat, with Bombay city being included in Maharashtra, and Ahmedabad was made the capital of Gujarat. So then this issue was finally settled. We also see in the case of another state that how linguistic principle was seen to be some sort of an exception, and in 1956 we see the states of Pepsu, Patiala and Eastern Punjab States Union had been merged with Punjab. So there were 8 states, how these 8 states, they were being merged with Punjab, and Punjab was a trilingual state at that point of time, where 3 language speakers were there, Punjabi, Hindi and Pahadi, within its borders. So we find that how linguistic reorganization was an important concern in the northern part of India as well, where we find that Punjab as a state was also, and we also find that how people, those who were associated with political groups as well, they were trying to convert the issue of language into some sort of a issue which was connected with language, with religion as well. So it created more problems in terms of linguistic reorganization, and finally in 1966 we find that Indira Gandhi agreed to the division of Punjab into 2 Punjabi and Hindi speaking states of Punjab and Haryana, with Pahadi speaking districts of Kangra and a part of Hoshiarpur district being merged with Himachal Pradesh. So this kind of a change in tactic in 1966, where we find that how certain Pahadi speaking parts, they were being given to Himachal Pradesh, and how Punjab as well as Haryana, they were being created on the linguistic lines, and they were ready to also share the newly created capital. Chandigarh was shared as the capital of both Punjab as well as Haryana. So we find that the leadership, the way it tried to resolve this issue, one of the fishy-porous tendencies which could be seen because of the linguistic issue, that could be removed. And W.H. Morris Jones, he has talked about that how state reorganization is best regarded as clearing the ground for national integration, And we also find that over a period of time the linguistic reorganization of states has not created any kind of a negative impact on the society, or it has not weakened the center in any way. And the center, the way it was wielding the authority in earlier times, it is wielding the authority in the similar manner. And how states, they have been cooperating with the center in the planning and the economic development. So the idea that if we will have this kind of a linguistic reorganization of the states, then there will be a lot of disunity, then the states they will in a way confront each other. So that did not happen. This kind of idea of disunity could not be seen. Rather, we could also see that how the creation of the coherent state units, they have in a way strengthened the government as well. And the idea which was being talked about, that how it may dilute the national integration, but that did not happen. And if you see the kind of practice in India, then we will also realize that the economic disparity as a major threat, or a more important threat to integrity, and not the linguistic one. So one has to locate the linguistic reorganization of India in all these kinds of aspects. One has to see it, that how the issue of linguistic reorganization was seen by the people, those who were the decision makers, and over a period of time they also realized that it may in a way contribute to the idea of nation building. It may also contribute to the idea of unity in diversity, was an idea which was being used in a way to promote the idea that linguistic reorganization of the states will in a way also contribute to the unity of the country. So one has to understand all these kinds of aspects in a very holistic manner, and one has to also see that any kind of apprehensions which were being in a way shown by the people, they were in a way not realized, and linguistic reorganization in a way in the long run was able to contribute to the unity of the country. And scholars like Rajni Kothari, he says that in spite of leadership's earlier reservations and ominous forebodings by sympathetic observers, reorganization resulted in rationalizing political map of India without seriously weakening its unity. So the political scientists, they have also tried to see in the hindsight that how the reorganization of the Indian states on the linguistic lines, in a way it resulted in the rationalizing the political map of India without weakening the unity of India. So we see that any kind of a discord which was there, as Rajni Kothari has argued, was given away, it was removed in a certain manner, and how certain homogeneous political units which were to be administered through a medium that vast majority of population understood. So language in a way proved to be a cementing and integrating force from that point of view. And we will also find that when we talk about the linguistic reorganization, then other problems which were related relating to the linguistic conflicts, they were not all of them, they were being resolved by the reorganization of the states. The disputes over the boundaries between different states, linguistic minorities, and economic issues such as sharing of water, power, and surplus food, they also in a way still persisted. So when we say that all the problems relating to the linguistic conflicts, they were being resolved, but that was not the case. But many of the issues which were there with regard to that, they were being addressed by the linguistic reorganization. And we also find that many a time linguistic chauvinism could also be seen when you talk about the idea of language. So when we try to in a way see that how linguistic reorganization has played an important role, then we find that it has gone very well with the general policy of the unity in diversity, and how a single language it can be adopted for the administration of the state. It will be very helpful, and the democracy will also be strengthened when people, they will participate in the democratic process, and it will also play an important role in the framework of the growth of the regional languages. Thank you very much.